Hello Twitch and welcome back to our cooperative world building stream. I am Roos Please and you are joining me for session 9. Can you believe it, how far we've come? We're on session 9 of our D&D group experience, where we aim to grow and develop as players and GMs by discussing the topic of DMing in general. So if you're new here, then welcome. As I said, I'm Roos Please, and I'm going to try and get you as quickly up to date with what's going on as possible, because I do this every week, and it's kind of like I'm aware that the people who are watching it every week just get like a constant barrage of this is what we've already been doing, and so I'm going to try and keep it concise, which is not my forte, but we're getting better. So I've set up this stream as the intent is we're building a campaign from scratch together as a group, and that. The intent of that is to help people who are already DMs or people who are thinking about DMing, give them something to work off to become a DM, right? Or to become a better DM by discussing the topic as a group, myself included. We can all take each other's input and grow as DMs. But it's not just for DMs; it's for players too, because it's handy, I think, sometimes to look behind the screen and see what the DM's been up to, right? It's handy for you as a player to understand the process that's involved in creating a D&D campaign, so that you can understand kind of what the DM's looking for from their players, I guess, is the best way of putting it. So the whole point is we're working on this whole campaign together, and we're creating a document that's going to be a playable campaign that you can either take away and use, or take away and adapt to your own story and change, or you can just ignore it altogether, right? It's about the journey, not the destination, and we're going to learn enough just by going through it. It's like a thought exercise, right? So we set out at the start with basically nothing, right? We started with the creation of the world and religion, and from there worked on societies for our campaign setting, and then from there worked on NPCs, and we've put a lot more effort into our starting locations called Sunnybrid, right? That's the map you're looking at right now, and we've filled in a lot more detail about the hello Herafina. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll get to the map very shortly. So yeah, we've put a lot more effort into the starting location. We've talked about the reasons why we've got a whole list of NPCs for our starting town, and we've maybe only got like 7 or 8 NPCs that don't exist in this town already planned out, because we're not expecting our players to encounter those NPCs until later on in the campaign. So we've weighted everything more heavily towards the start of the campaign, because we're not sure how long this campaign's going to run, because you might run it for 10 years, or you might only run it as like a one shot for a day or what have you. So you'll sort of pick up, if you are new, you'll pick up where we are with the story as we go. It's not a very complicated story, but it is one I'm quite proud of. We've done, as a group, we've done quite well to come up with a fairly interesting plot, I think, for our story, and that'll become apparent as you progress. If you type Command Doc into there you go. For that, it's a Google Doc. It's a public Google Doc where you can view everything that we've done so far, and it's just got all the information that we've added for the campaign all in one place. So if you want to get more insight into aspects of the story and NPCs and what have you, that's where you want to go. And we also there is a YouTube, which I don't do a very good job of maintaining, but I upload all of our previous streams there as VODs, so that you can, if you want to watch back through, you can see the whole process that we've gone through. There's like 9 episodes that exist now, so and they're all roughly 2 to 2.5 hours. So there's a lot of content there, but you can see the whole process of how we've come from nothing to where we are now, and that's like fairly interesting. So that's there as well. If you just search Roosplers on YouTube, then you'll find it. But yes, that's there as a resource as well. But the most important one's probably the document, because there's a lot of, we're now at a point now where, because the story exists, there's a lot of like inside information where we'll be talking about specific NPCs, and the chat who have been ever present kind of know about the NPCs. So if you find yourself getting lost, then the document's the place to go. There are some commands that I try to keep commands updated so that if there's anything we're talking about that's named in the campaign, you can type in. So our king is called Reich Flareford. I don't think Reich's one. Reich Flareford. There we go. So not a lot of information, but if you hear us talking about Reich Flareford, then he's the king, right? So there is information there, like to find if you find yourself lost. But the best thing to do is just ask chat. Whoever's in chat, I'm sure will be more than happy to answer any questions. As will I, if it goes unanswered. So where we are right now is, as I said, we've done a stellar job of creating our own world and populating it with a central tension for our main storyline, and then we've got some meaty hooks in our starting location, Sunnybrid, for our players to investigate in their first session. And I'm very excited about this, and also very nervous as my eye continues to itch and bother me for some reason. We've been going through the process of prepping a session 0, which I think is like an essential part of a D&D campaign. You might not agree, but this is where we are. We're sounding out as a group, discussing like the pros and cons of session 0, and we've been working on putting a pack together to as like a DM's like info pack for running a session 0 for our campaign that we've built. And I will be on, all being well, I've planned a session on Wednesday that won't be streamed. I'm going to be running the session for a group of people with mixed ability levels in D&D, and we'll be recording it. And then next Sunday, at our stream next Sunday at 6 p.m, we should be hopefully looking at some clips of the clips of the recorded session 0, and sort of using that as like a educational tool, right? We can look at what went wrong and what went right, and like the pros and cons of what happened, and use that to discuss like what we might do differently next time or what have you, and get a better understanding of why we do a session 0, right? And if possible, I'll be bringing a couple of those players on board on the Sunday. They should be able to join us via audio to talk with us during the live stream next Sunday, to talk about their views and feelings about what happens during the session, what they liked and disliked, just to get their perspectives even more important than ours. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of work's been going on behind the scenes, but I'm very excited to bring that to you. I'm also very, very nervous. Yes. I was talking to the prospective players about this week about I'm at a point now. I'm at a point as a DM where I don't really get nervous DMing anymore, but I'm very nervous about DMing this session, and I think it's kind of a lot of it's down to the fact that it's not my content. Like because it's a group effort. I want to do my best job of selling the hard work that you guys are putting. So I don't want to let you guys down. That's the long and short of it, really. Like I want to do a mean job of selling it's our campaign, right? So I want to do a mean job of selling your campaign to our prospective players, so that when they're sat here on Sunday, they've got nothing but positive things to say about the story, right? If they want to slam me for my DMing style, I'm more than fine with that. I just don't want them to be unhappy with the campaign setting that we've created. Looking forward to it. Should be fun to watch. Yeah, like I'm. So it's going to be very different to the normal format, because this is the way our stream goes is like a very back and forth. Like it's kind of almost like a hangout. Like we're just sort of talking about D&D a lot, and like it's good fun, but it's raised the stakes somewhat as this session 0. So yeah, it should be like it should be entertaining, especially from your perspective. Hopefully, you know that's the plan. Something very different for you to sink your teeth into. Um, and again, yeah, just hopefully hope I can do you guys justice because the look at this the setting you guys have come up with is like top notch. So made with love, right? And I want our players to get that impression, right? So so this week is kind of like the oh shit week, right? We've been over the past couple of weeks. We've been we're just working on this session 0 checklist of things that we want to have ready for me to run the session on your behalf, right? And it's now become very real because it's happening on Wednesday. We've been drawing maps and like that as you can see. We've been drawing maps, drawing some posters that's supposed to be like a propaganda poster that kind of lean our players into the central tension of our story, right? I don't think I've got those on here, but I will endeavour in the background while streaming do a bit of multitasking to get them on screen for you to look at because they're part of our pack, right? So we've got two posters that are for anyone who's new. To break the central tension down to its bare bones, we've got a kingdom, right? That hello, Ali Scarlet, Willkommen. We've got a kingdom that's currently in the process of being turned over to an empire. We've got a senate who are taking over power, and our king, all hail King Reich Flairford, is kind of nominating to hand control over to the senate for like the menial parts of running a kingdom. And from the perspective of society as a whole, he's no more, right? The Senate are going to be in charge, but part of the deal with him standing down is that the monarchy still gets to preside, right? So he still gets to be a king and think he's a king, but in reality, he's not really making any of the decisions anymore. So he gets to live in his ivory tower and stuff, and he gets to live in Space Mountain and love life, and think he's the boss of jobs, but he's not boss of jobs anymore. And that's creating a tension throughout the whole of society where, you know, we've kind of come to the conclusion that the majority of society is probably considers this move to be a positive one. But very much there'd be like a core group of loyalists who think it's like it's a bad thing because the king's always been there for them and whatever. So that's not where our story is going to start, but that's kind of like that's the central tension that we're going to lead our players towards as they get to higher levels, and hopefully they can become involved in that potential civil war, right? So we've made some posters over the past couple of weeks that illustrate that to our players, so that I'm not having to explain loads of stuff to them over and over again, and like they're just not being bombarded with information that they're gonna have to sit and make notes and stuff. I can hand them these posters and say, these are posters that you'll find hung up around Sunnybridge. So there's a loyalist one and a separatist one, right? And then we did like a bonus stream where I started this map, and I've been kind of plodding away on it in my own time, and I've come to a point where I think I'm going to stop now. Like there's a lot more detail I'd like to add, but I get kind of conflicted when I'm doing this stuff because I want to sell the idea as much as possible that like DMing is for everyone, and you don't have to have a rich palette of like specific skills to do it. So I don't want to put people off by like thinking like I can't draw like a really good map or whatever. So I don't want to put too much detail in it. And you could draw this on lines paper in a biro and it'd be fine, right? It's just one of the things that I personally like to do is draw. So I've put a little bit more effort into this because that's one of the things I get out of DMing. You'll find very quickly that when we come to like creative writing, that's not one of my fortes. So you might be a lot better than I am at at creative writing, right? About descriptive text and exposition as a DM. So don't be put off by that, I guess, is my. But yeah, I've been working on this. This is another. We're going to hand our players this. It's just a very basic. It's less of that. It's just a very basic map of Sunnybrid. So if I zoom in a bit, right. This is like the docks. Raiding with a party of 6. Willkommen, Mighty Lancer. How was Skyrim Sunday? I can only assume epic, because we've overrun slightly, right? So welcome to all of your raiders as well. Just to catch you up very quickly, we are planning our session 0 for a D&D campaign, and hello Tony Howell. How are we all doing? Yeah, so we're just going over the last few. The session 0 we're actually running. We're doing a dry run for a mock group on Wednesday. So hostages, yes, bring them, tie them down. You're going nowhere, Pete. You're going to sit and watch this D&D content. Yeah, so we I said this is the shit week, because we have to be ready to run this campaign session on Wednesday, or I need to be ready. So how have we got here? You've arrived through the many and varied tubes of the Twitch ecosystem as a raidee from Mighty Lancer Games, and you could not be more welcome. It was MLG a second ago. It was Skyrim even, I believe. Yeah, so we're just looking at a map. We're looking at a map just to get some progress updates on it. It's about where I would run it now. This is the map I'm going to be handing to our players. Thank you very much, Pete, for following and for making Bulbasaur appear on my screen, because that makes me very happy. Yeah, so we are. The map's looking nice. Thank you very much. So yeah, I'm ready with this map. I'm ready with this map. This is the map I'm going to hand to our players now to give them a rough idea of where everything sits in Sunnybrid, so that they can start session 1 with a little bit of an understanding of where to find the general goods stores. I'll catch them all. Yay, Bulbasaur. I've never agreed with the statement more in my life. Yay, Bulbasaur, indeed. And Spear Point Garrison up here is going to be in the process of being handed over to the Senate as well. So that's all information I can give the players to hook them into our juicy story, right? So I'm very excited about that. And the rest of this session is going to be us working together to just check off the last of this list, so that when I run the session 0 on Wednesday, I can do my very best to represent your guys' work on this campaign to our players, and then we'll get their feedback next Sunday, and hopefully they'll enjoy themselves, right? Hopefully they'll have lovely things to say about your campaign. So gotta go fast. Got to Sonic it this week. The GM introduction at the top here, I'm kind of going to wing that, because I feel like that's more my style to wing it. Tony Howell, thank you very much for following. It's a follow apocalypse. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Erafina. If anyone's interested in following along where we are with our campaign, the handy link that's just been posted in the chat will take you to our global Google Doc, where you can view everything we've planned for this campaign, and that'll get you up to date as fast as possible with all the nuances of NPCs and things we're talking about. So just in case you didn't pick up through context, I'm running a session 0 for our group built campaign on Wednesday. It's not going to be live streamed. I'm going to record it behind the scenes with a group of 4 players with varying D&D experience. And next week I'm gonna show clips of what was recorded during that session, and we're gonna have a couple of the players join us, and they're gonna give us some feedback on how session 0 went and what they think of our campaign in general. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also very nervous, as I've said, because this is like the campaign's not entirely my work. It's a group effort, and I want to do my very best to sell the group's work to the players, because like I've said, I'm more than happy to get slated myself for my DM style, but I don't want our players to have a negative. I'm sure they won't, but I don't want our players to have a negative experience with your campaign that you've helped me put together, because it's a lot of effort's gone into it on your part and stuff, and I want to do my very best to. I'm gonna have a haircut as well before, probably not before Wednesday, but when you see me Sunday, I'll have had a haircut. How exciting is that? So cool. Look forward to seeing the clips. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to editing the clips. I have some prior experience with like Premiere Pro and After Effects, mostly at like college and sixth form. It's been a long time, and I've given myself a very short window to edit all these clips down. But I'm gonna try my very best, right, to have something watchable. No promises, but I'm gonna go for basic first, and then try and add some production value at the end, just to make sure I've got something to show, and then if I can add some interesting production value stuff later on, I will do. So yeah, onto the work at hand, right? We've got my GM introduction is kind of the only real part that you like as a group we can't work on, and so I've sort of just said like my plan for that is to very much wing it, because the minutiae of how I'm going to run the campaign and what have you isn't necessarily important for. Can we name the Tabaxi Gatekeeper Zool? We absolutely can. As you guys are looking at this sheet, Gatekeeper Zool, anything that's blue has not been named. So there's an opportunity there for anyone who wants to put their stamp on our campaign. You are more than welcome to name any of our deities or NPCs. Anything that's green has been named, anything that's blue hasn't. Right. So a lot of these things will need to be filled in before I run the session. And anything that isn't filled in by Wednesday, I'm probably just going to kind of like, I'm going to add like a temporary name, just so I can give the players something. Sidetracks. Yeah. So I'm gonna run this ad hoc, right? The introduction, because like I've said I'm going to run D&D 5th edition because it's more like open to people, and like it's easier for people who maybe haven't played before to get a handle on. But this is the kind of thing that you'll change for your own campaign, and it's not really super important for the exercise that we're doing for what we're trying to achieve here, right? So I'm just going to make it up as I go along. Really, I'm going to tell them we're running 5th, and we're going to run milestone leveling, because that's probably what I would do if it was my campaign. But this is all personal to you. You can run the campaign however you like. But one of the important things that we've mentioned in the past is that when we're saying this to our players at the start of session 0, it's not these are the rules and this is what we're sticking by. It's like it's an open discussion where we're asking for our players' feedback as well, right? It's a cooperative story. It's a D&D is a group storytelling exercise, and if our players decide they want to run XP leveling, and as a group they can all agree that that's what they want to do, they're more than welcome to overrule my original decision, right? I'm just going to give them like a baseline to work off of, and they can change aspects of it as they please. So no, that's not super important for this. So we're not gonna go through that together today. It's just important to mention that like the reason we're telling our players is this is not to dictate to them how the game's going to go. It's just to give them like a baseline to this is, unless you guys say otherwise, this is what I'm going to do, right? Because this is what I'm more comfortable with. But this is all open for discussion. We've got we opted not to do a short story, and instead of a short story, we've actually written a series of poetry for our players, which I'm very excited to. I've never started a session 0 by reading a haiku before, so this will be a first for me. But thank you, shout outs to Pontus Godsworth for writing us a haiku to explain aspects of our central tension to our players. Physical handouts are done. So we've got, as I mentioned before, we've got our propaganda posters that will be found posted up around Sunnybrid. And we've got a map to hand our players so that they've got a rough idea of where everything is in town, which is the one that I've just shown you. So I think physical description of Sunnybrid we'll probably leave till last because we've got the map. A lot of the information that the players are going to want to know about this town they're starting in is available to them. It's just a case of, again, this is a little bit of like exposition from the DM. I might want to read like a very short passage of text that describes how like impoverished the town is and stuff, and just that, you know, that harsh winds can be felt blowing in from the sea, and like everything's nithered, you know, like all the peasants who live in the town are like wrapped up warm because of the harsh winds, and just sell that idea that it's like a bleak town, but there's hope, right? Our populace are feeling very positive about the prospect of the power shift. So in general, there's a sense of hope that is felt through the grim appearance of everything in town. So kind of, and this is like, this line is literally just describing everything that's below it. So we're probably going to start off with this, which is not the biggest job, but it's something that I would tend to hand to my players because we have relationships between races and religions and stuff in our world that we've worked on. I want to let our players know that when they're choosing a character, because it's going to be more interesting for them to create a character who is an elf if they know what that means in our world. So elves are a good example because when we were building our society, when we did society in episode 3 or whatever it was, we settled on the idea that elves would be like this pirate, this kind of marauding seafaring race, rather than like the typical elves that you'd see in like Tolkien or whatever, right? So if we let our players know that from the start, then they know that if they're going to build an elf class, an elf character, they want to make that character more like, they might decide they want to be an elf, a proper Jack Sparrow elf pirate, right? Which is going to be more interesting for the whole group as a whole, because it kind of conforms to what's expected out of the campaign setting, and it'll help them to ingratiate themselves into the campaign more because they've chosen something that fits in. I love making characters. It's just finding time to them. Yeah, it's never finding your time though, is it? It's finding 4 people's time that coincide to. Yeah, I'm very interested to find out what our session 0 group create character wise, because with it being like a mock session that is unlikely to turn into a real campaign, that kind of gives them the opportunity to really go wild with creating a character that's like a bit off the wall. So I'm very interested to see what's going on there. Also, that's the point. When you get to a point where the players are making their characters, like I've come a long way through the introduction, and that'll be like my opportunity to sit back and take a breath and be like, oh my god, all right, okay, they're building characters now. I can breathe for like 10 minutes, and they'll kind of ask a couple of questions as and when they've got them while they're building characters. But like it's very much a break for the DM. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. So I guess I'm just going to start like a new. I guess I'm just going to start a new page. This is our haiku, by the way. by Pontus Godsworth, who wanted it attributed to to not actual Leviticus, but a character from our campaign setting called Leviticus, who is an old timey prophet. Don't know why I've added it. Don't know why there's like a break in here. There we go. Yeah, so I did write like some basic, like a basic example of what the introduction would be like in one of the previous episodes, just to go over the sorts of things that I expected that we would talk about. So what I want to make this as easy as possible for our players to digest. This is something that I've mentioned a few times through this process, that the reason we're creating these handouts for our players is to give them as much information as possible without just handing them. We could hand them this 12-page document, right, and say, read that, and then you know everything, and it would be the most boring experience of their lives, and they'd probably not be that into creating a character by the end of it, right? As proud as we are of all the work we've done, it's not very digestible. So the whole reason we're creating handouts and things is like, we hand them a poster, we hand them our propaganda posters that explain that there's a tension between people who are loyalists and separatists, right? And without having to sit and go into a long diatribe about that for them, they can just look at these posters and be like, all right, okay, that makes sense, right? And they don't have to go into all the details and sit and listen to me talking for ages. And the same thing with these races. I think the easiest way in my mind, like jump in if you've got a better idea. That's what we're all about here. This is a group process, right? We're all trying to get better together. So if you've got a better idea, just jump in. But in my head, I think the easiest way is literally just to have like a two-column table that's just got like race on the left, and then on the right like a 1 or 2 line description of them, and then our players have got like they've got all that information, even though there's like 20 races or whatever, and that's like 40 lines of text. They don't need to read all of that because our players are going to have an inclination to play a specific race from the start, right? So they can, if they come to the table and they go, okay, I've been thinking about running a dwarf, they can read dwarf, see if they like that. Maybe they don't. Maybe they want to read like Goliath or whatever to look for an alternative. So that's my 2 cents on that. I think I don't know how many races there actually are, but I think 20 wasn't a bad guess. And we've got our deities as well, which are going to do a similar thing. But we're probably just going to copy and paste the text we've already written about the deities, because you're gonna have players who want to be a cleric or a paladin and are going to be interested in choosing a deity, and then you're going to have your players who are going to be a rogue who have absolutely no interest in that at all. So they can ignore that page, right? We're not forcing our players into homework. We're just giving them as much information as possible, because they're going to be able to create more involved characters if they've got this information. So humans, of course, humans, dwarves, elves. Oh God. Humans, dwarves, elves. Humans, dwarves, elves. Bear with me while I do this. Humans, dwarves, elves. Gnomes, halflings, dragonborn, tabaxi. Gnomes, halflings, dragonborn, tabaxi. If you were Erafina, you've been here for like every stream, I think. So, what would your while I do this, what would your character be? Do you think? Because I believe I spoke about what I would do at one point. Half orc, tall drow, and what my motivations as a character would be. Tall drow. Half orc, tall drow. Chadsworth. Goliath, right? That's got to be Goliath. Goliath, Aarakocra, Asima. Oh my god. Have I just Aarakocra just 1A in it? Asima. What? Okay, maybe it is. Aarakocra, Asima. Have I reached the end? Is that it? I said 20. Is that all we've got? Is that? I guess so. And then we've got Tiefling, right? That's what our anti-deity is. So probably 60% or probably 80% of the population in Sunnybrid would probably be human, because of the backstory of our world. The empire, sorry, the kingdom is a human monarchy, right? And the kingdom was established by humans who took over the region by force. So we're probably looking at like 80% humans in the town, but you would find like interspersed in between them basically every race under the sun. Probably not so many Dragonborn and Tiefling because of the backstory of those, but that's how I'm looking. Tabaxi Rogue or Halfling Wizard. Interesting. So I'd like from at this like early stage, I'd kind of decided I would probably be a human. I don't know what class I would be, but I would want to be a former guard. So we have this. I'm not sure if Sunnybrid does have that many humans. Have you seen them out there? You're talking about the real world location, and yeah. Yeah, maybe that was a bit of a faux pas. Maybe we're subverting our players' expectations with the name Sunnybrid, because any of them that have visited might expect a lot more half orcs, right? A lot of rogues and mostly half orc race. And mostly unemployed. Is Brid real? Very very good question. It's certainly on the map. It doesn't feel like a real place though when you're there. It's I don't know how familiar people are with a very specific location, but Beverly Road in Hull is like me and my friends always refer to it as the Twilight Zone, because it's like the weirdest place on the planet. You just see all sorts going on there. I was once we were once heading to Hull to go shopping with a load of friends, and there was a guy being on like a scooter, like a push scooter, like a kid scooter, being pulled down the road by like a lad on a moped, and it was definitely a wheels to work moped with his L plates on and what have you. And he was probably doing like probably only like 15 miles an hour, but 15 miles an hour on like a kid's push scooter, like you were looking at it, guy's obviously not got any protective clothing on at all, and it looked like it wasn't going to end well. Maybe we were already playing the game and do not know. Don't go there. I've watched too many episodes of Black Mirror to be listening to that kind of. Once drove past Muston on the way to Scarborough. There was a guy walking down the road dressed as a wizard. Whoa. What colour? What colour wizard? Because that's important. Sounds about right for all. Robes, hat, and everything. Maybe you saw a real wizard. You probably saw a real wizard. Purple. Purploo. I hope that was intentional. Purploo is a wonderful. Oh no, purple. Okay, fair enough. I think the only assumption we can come to is that you saw a real wizard in Muston. I've gone way off track here. Not that anyone wants to specifically listen to my PC, but our garrison's being turned over to the Senate. The loyalist troops that are currently stationed in the garrison are in the process of turning control over to the Senate forces, and they're unsure what that means for them. and I said I would want to play like a guard who's left because he believes that he doesn't want to work for the Senate, so he's quit his job. And then I'd want to play like a story arc where like I'm very like loyalist, just because like I've got a like been brought up as a loyalist, and I just think that I like the royal family because that's what's right because I'm a human, and that I'd have like a story arc that I slowly sort of come round to the idea that it's actually better for the everyman that there's a Senate who like make decisions based on like the good of everyone. Could the innkeeper be called Windsor Crownshine? And then the janitorial lad can roll his eyes and tell us his name is actually something else. He's so obsessed with sounding more regal to impress people. You say I like the way you say can he, as though I'm ever going to say no. I love it. Where are NPCs? So our innkeeper is a very loyalist character, and we've got that like we've got a very like very sitcom-esque relationship with the janitorial, like the lad who works there is his son, and his son's like a more realistic like pro-Senate individual. Windsor Crownshine. Windsor Crownshine. And his actual name is something like Gord Pigswell. Pigswell. Oh my god. Gord Pigswell Jr. His son's Gord Pigswell Jr. Right. Gord. There's a lot of there's a very gaudy feel to our humans. The human aspect deity is very pumpkin related for whatever reason we've decided. So yeah, he's a top bloke though. He's a top bloke. Is old Windsor Crownshine. Humans are the default, you know. In the kingdom, owing to the history of its inception. Generally pretty entitled, right? We decided. Generally fairly entitled, though not always. not always well bred, right? Just especially you'll find in Sunnybrid, like everyone's kind of impoverished in Sunnybrid, but you'll still get people who have nothing but feel as though they're more entitled than the other races around them because it's the king's a human. And our dwarves are fairly uncommon human population. Because we decided our dwarves are going to be very like typical dwarves, right? We want them to be kind of stereotypical, right? So we're gonna have dwarven holds and things underground, and they're gonna tend to want to stick to themselves because it's probably likely that in dwarven holds and dwarven cities that are under the mountains, they get away with a lot more activity that's outside of the human law. Like our King Reich Flairford, you know, woo. is probably has probably got less influence than underground. So you tend to stick to the old, because there would be old dwarven cities and things that had been conquered by humans, but because humans don't want to live underground, they'd have like installed like some sort of governance there. Then some unfortunate individual would have to live underground and be like a governor of the city as a human, but everyone around him would still be a dwarf, and he'd probably adapt to their culture a bit and stick to the old dwarven hold cities. They get away. I get away with more more unconventional. Unpatriotic. With a more, right. Thank you very much for joining us and sticking around for so long, even as a hostage or not. We'll be sure to let you know how we're getting on. Feel free to pop back next week for a quick update. And thank you for your support, mostly for making Bulbasaur appear on the screen, because I'm all about it. See you later. Cool. Thanks for the grammar there. Elms. Elves are a seafaring race. Elves are a seafaring race who live by a Bulbasaur rolls by. I agree. I couldn't agree more. Have a wonderful evening and have a wonderful week. Let's see if I live by a raider's code. Right. I'm just waffling here, right? Codes. They don't usually concern themselves with stick to coastal groups. So we're towing a line with the elves, aren't we? Where like they're not full blown pirates, right? They're not killing and what have you, but they've got very loose definitions of ownership, right? If they were to come across a vessel carrying like gems and things, those gems have been taken from the earth, right? And just because you were the person who took them from the earth doesn't necessarily mean that they're yours. So they wouldn't be interested in stealing the clothes off your back, but they've got very loose interpretations of like general ownership. Like you wouldn't find them raiding the fishing ships that are to-ing and fro-ing from Sunnybrid, because those fishing ships are feeding people. Right? They're not evil. But if they can find like a rich, they're very Robin Hoody, but they don't give to the poor, right? They just kind of stick to their own. Gnomies. We didn't really decide much about gnomes, did we? Happy-go-lucky, right? Feel free to contradict me at any time. I'm just kind of filling these things in with what we'd sort of agreed before, right? I don't think we'd said much about gnomes, but I've always sort of thought of them as being like very lackadaisical and like probably gonna say Lancer happy go actually. Lackadaisical, if I can. Lackadaisical? What is that? Is that really lackadaisical? Enjoy your tea, Mighty Lancer. Thank you very much for stopping by. Thank you for the raid, and I will see you tomorrow. I never asked how. I did ask how Skyrim, so I never got an answer. I'll talk to you tomorrow. See how Skyrim Sunday went. But again, have a fantastic evening and have a fantastic week. I'll see you next Sunday. Generally very like this cool race. I hope you have a great day. Oh right, well, enjoy your Monday then. Enjoy your day off. Probably well deserved. So I don't think gnomes. I don't tend to have gnomes form. So a lot of races you'll find will have like we'll definitely have this for the halflings, right? Where you find halflings in a human population, they'll sort of stick to a corner kind of thing. Because things for the halfling way of life is different to that of humans, and you've got like physical barriers with halflings where like they want things to be smaller. So you'll find that there's like a street where it's all halfling houses, and they kind of confine themselves to like this, almost segregate themselves because they enjoy each other's company more than that of humans, and we'll tend to have them be like they're very well ingratiated in society in general. Like you'll see them in the pubs and stuff, just hanging out with humans, but they'll want to live with their own kind of thing. But I've always had gnomes just like disperse themselves randomly. Like they've got no real affinity to their own race or anything. They're so lackadaisical. They just kind of like meander around the world, toing and froing, going wherever they please. Right. Generally, very lackadaisical race. They can be found throughout all societies. Generally establishing a trade around engineering, right? They'll just find a town and set up a workshop, right? And be like, I've got a workshop in the town. If you need something making, I'm your guy. Halflings. You'll find a large. You'll find a reasonable. Any town or city. Though they ingratiate themselves well into society and form they will often live in we saw gnomes as a mysterious race, part of the Fey realms and a product of the Seelie Court. Some have fallen through to our worlds and are quite ephemeral, appearing to phase in and out. Wow. I like that. There's like, because there's always been like two distinct ways in mythology of looking at gnomes, and they are like there's like a very Fey like interpretation of them. They're like magical and what have you, and then you've got the more like in like my kind of the one that I'm usually running, like they're like tinkerers kind of thing. Just like they're like a laughable. They're always about, and you can rub the heads for good luck and stuff. Like, I do like that though. Like anything that adds that like extra sense of mystery to, because it immediately like makes you ask questions when if you allow a player to be a race that's like almost otherworldly. Like you kind of get the same thing with Asimar, where like because you're letting your players choose a race that's like extremely rare and otherworldly. Like you make your players engage with that part of your campaign immediately, because like if you like the same thing with Ganassi, right? If you want to be a Ganassi, then you have to understand how Ganassi exist, how Ganassi exist in like the campaign setting and stuff. It leads to some very interesting like role playing as well. If you want to be like a Fey, like a very Fey gnome, that's like you'd almost have no interest in most of, like say like Ephemeral. They'd almost have like no interest in what's going on in the campaign, because they're not strictly concerned with the things that are going on like in the mortal realms, right? Often live in their own. Their own like quarter. Which is probably more to do with housing than anything. You want a load of halfling bungalows in a row. Dragonborn. Let's get that capitalised, shall we? The Tattered Veil, the Tatty V. Wow. Tattered Veil. Live in exile, right? So what am I trying to say? Religiously, Dragonborn is seen to be the byproduct of our halfling and gnome deities. They were created by like mixing dragon blood with humans, and that was seen to be like them massively overstepping the mark and working outside of what was permitted as a deity. So then they got that it was one deity and it got cut in half, right? And that's how you got gnomes and halflings. Tea time. Catch you all soon. Thank you very much for stopping by, Pontus. A pleasure as always. Enjoy your tea and have a wonderful evening. I will see you tomorrow. What was I saying? Yeah, so the deity literally got cut in half and became two deities, and that's how we get halflings and gnomes. That's how halflings and gnomes came into being, supposedly, right? Which is quite an interesting little. And yeah, the Dragonborn was like their sin that got them ostracized or like punished anyway, and their power halved. So the Dragonborn themselves are kind of seen as like the sin, right, of that god. So they would live in like like covens kind of thing. They created. I'm going to say insane by deity. This is writing horribly, but as long as our players can read it and understand, that's why we're hearing it. That's kind of important to like. We don't have to be creative geniuses, right? We just need to get the information across to our players. created in sin by a deity who was then punished by their siblings for the act. The other races see them and see them as an affront to the gods, and so they are ostracized. Don't ostracize me. Cool. Tabaxi. Gotta love Tabaxi. Where's Tabaxi? We don't want to do Khajiit, do we? We haven't really said much about Tabaxi either, but I'll come back to Tabaxi because I haven't really got any. Erafina's a big Tabaxi lover, so come at me. What's your how do Tabaxi fit into the Tattered Veil? Like, let me know. Let me know what your thoughts are, because I'm interested. Not half orcs. This is a classic, innit? Half orcs used to live in nomadic tribes, right? Prior to the human. What am I trying to say? What's the word? Human occupation, right? Veil. They now live in small pocket communities. Around season towns. Mercenaries. Mercenaries and like sailors and stuff. We've got a very nautical like aspect of this campaign, and like I could see like a big lumbering half orc being the kind of guy you'd want at sea, provided the ship was big enough to contain him. Right, they're going to be pretty handy when the seas are rough and you need to hoist the main sails and stuff. Our turtles. Turtles tend to live anywhere where they can. I've seen Tabaxi as nature loving, can be found in small groups. They do go out on their own looking for adventure to bring stories back to the group. So like nomadic again, right? So they don't tend to live in you go with like caravans and stuff again, aren't you? Like not necessarily like trading caravans, just like turtles tend to live anywhere they can. Anywhere can. Jungle dwelling, right? Homeland could describe as some kind of disease that makes the jungle have diseases from that. Whoa! I like that. So they're like not. They're not actually a part of our. They probably weren't around for the war that established the kingdom, they're kind of outsiders to that whole thing. They've arrived here. Quite outlands. Yeah, like I've always liked the idea of like desert tabaxi, and we've got the desert in the north, right? Like kind of like short-haired, like sphinxy kind of tabaxi. But then we also like Ali Scala's in things. So I'm going to think about it while I try and think what I'm actually trying to say. I want to say the word freegans, right? Our turtles are like freegans, right? They can turtles tend to live anywhere. They can tend to live anywhere. They can often recycling waste to gather the resources to feed themselves. They'll often live near, but not within larger settlements, right? My Anglo gnomes would be first generation, and more mainstream gnomes are born and bred in this world. Gives a backstory to their affinity with woodland creatures and might grant them a secret DM bonus with Fae and Druids. The racial backstory is probably even lost in the midst of time, but gives you the DM starting point. I love it. So, modern day gnomes, right? Modern day gnomes, right? I believe no, we don't want to. We don't deal in certainties with this kind of thing, do we? Are thought to be descendant from descended from Fae creatures. Breached plane. Breached the plane. Breached the plane in the time of the gods, right? Time of the gods. And that kind of explains like their lackadaisical attitude, because like their blood's like otherworldly, and like whether they even realize it or not is like up to the DM and the players. But Breach playing time of the gods, yeah, and we'll let our players decide like if they want to know that. Jungle forest tabaxi could be heading towards the Shorthead Desert King for refuge. Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's have a look at the map, shall we? That'll probably be pretty handy, because even though I drew it, I can't really like always do that. Behind the scenes. One day I'm gonna spend like an entire day just working out how to do stuff like this better, right? Oh, this is the wrong map. This is the map I wanted. Yes, they could easily have come from like the east, right? And they're trying to make it to the desert or that's like the general like journey they've been conducting, because Tabaxi as a race fairly new to the right. Fading to the Tatler's Vale. Vale. The story, like, local. Oh man, what am I trying to say? Locals have heard stories of a corrupted homeland, right? Corrupted homeland has forced the formerly jungle dwelling tabaxi on a pilgrimage. No, other way around. Pilgrimage westward in search of their kin for like assistance in this. With an assistance in dealing with an ancient evil. I like that. I like it just because it gives our players like it gives our players like a race to like. There's a couple of races the same with like the total. There's a couple of options that aren't necessarily that ingratiated with the main storyline, and it's cool to have like that one player in a party who's like here for another reason, right? They've got a completely different agenda. Their backstory says that they're interested in something else, but like if I help you deal with this like civil war nonsense that you want to deal with, like my people have like lost their home, and like maybe sorting your civil war is like a good way to find us somewhere new to live, but or just by helping your fractured society like become whole again, you might be able to help us later on with our thing. Skipping around for a minute. Goliath. I think like Goliath. Goliaths are like half giant, aren't they? So like it's like they're extremely rare, right? They're extremely rare to find living in civilized society, right? The more intelligent, right? of the Goliath have been known to venture south, right? Because so I figure any Goliaths would maybe have come from like we've got mountain ranges like to the northeast, right? So known to venture southward. Got to go for now. No. Thank you very much, Tony, for popping in. As always, it's been a pleasure. Have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we'll see you again next Sunday for some highlights of session 0. Fingers crossed. Please, if any of you remember, light a candle and cross your fingers for me on Wednesday evening, and wish me luck, because again, very nervous, and like it's a kind of new experience for me to be like this nervous running into it. It takes me back to like my first ever experience of DMing. It was just everything was new and scary. So definitely, thank you very much for popping in, and thank you very much for the Bulbasaur. It means the world to me. You'll be fine. I hope so. Though extremely unfair, known to venture southward. Sexual work. What can they come south for that's a little bit more interesting? Like maybe the more intelligent Goliath like want to bring something back to their like tribe, right? In search of like technology, right? In search of information and technologies that can improve their way of life, right? You just get this like idea of the Goliath whose IQ is more than 12 gets sent by his tribe southwards to come back, because he's like a scientist to his people. So like he wants to come back and bring back like dwarven inventions and stuff that are going to help their like way of living up in the mountains and stuff. I don't know, but that's very like open, and it'll let your player decide like you can tell me why you're here, right? Which I like. Just let your player like make all the decisions for like the origin of their character. Aarakocra. We had a really good one for Aarakocra. So the Aarakocra, what's a proud martial race, right? We had this idea that they were like, this is I'm really sad he's gone, because it's just like a real Pontus thing. They're like a proud martial race who, like, when they were defeated by who lived in city, because they're burbs, right? High in the mountains of the Citadel, right? Or whatever it was called back then. When they were defeated by the armies of man, they force themselves like not into exile, but they're like they live in like shame, right? The descendants of the few remaining descendants, right? Descendants of the warrior clans, right? Live in shame, remembering their fall to the hands of men, the inception of the current kingdom, right? So you've got this like opportunity for a cool redemption arc for like this like bird person who used to be like whose lineage is of like a noble warrior race, and then when their cities were like destroyed by the humans, because we don't like I've got this idea that like the cities that that they had up in the mountains were very bird people-y and were of no use to like the kingdom, so that they would have just been like sacked and destroyed, right? And there's like no like it's difficult to find any of their like proud heritage, so they just live like, and they tend to be like among the dregs of society, just being like, it'd be very easy to run an Aarakocra who's basically like a scumbag or whatever, like a lot of rogues and stuff. But then you'd have the odd one who's like who's still like a fighter or like a paladin or whatever, who's like still like trying to regain the honor of like their ancestors and stuff. Like classic storytelling, right? Aasimar, oh my god! So Aasimar, if I remember correctly, Aasimar are born as an aspect of a. So they're like an aspect of a religious domain that is like either uncontested. It's either like what am I trying to say? They're like an aspect of a religious domain that isn't covered by one of the that isn't that hasn't been claimed by one of the demigods. So like it can either be like a domain, it can either be like a part of a domain that, like a fractious domain that one of the deities isn't interested in being responsible for, or it can be like created by the advance of time. So like as things are invented, as like technology advances, that hello Crossy, welcome to the stream. Hands up. I have no idea what this emote is, but welcome. Thanks for derailing. You know, it doesn't take a lot, but thanks for dropping by. Yeah. So as society and technology advance, it creates certain like things that haven't existed before. So like when blasting became used in mining, right? The dwarves first started using explosives to mine. It's like, which god is responsible for explosives now? And if none of the gods want to claim responsibility for it, like that fracture in the domains creates an Aasimar, and it's that Aasimar's life, like that Aasimar's life goal is to either establish that domain as its own thing, so that it gets its own deity, or to unite that like fractured part of a domain with an existing one, so that one of the deities can then take responsibility for it. They aren't created. They aren't conceived, right? Let's get. They aren't conceived with the knowledge required to reunite fractious domain with its whole. It's their life's work. Their life's. Be cool to have that. Like you can have that moment in a campaign as well, where if an Aasimar completes their life goal, then they'll just cease to exist or whatever, and you can have that emotional moment where a player's character dies because they did what they were supposed to do. Very good question, Crossy. So we're on our 9th session of planning a D&D campaign, and we're so deep in now. We've created a backstory for our campaign. We've inhabited our world that we've created with NPCs and gods and societies and towns and cities. We've got a starting location for our campaign, which is named Sunnybrid, and we are now, or we have been for the past couple of weeks, working on a plan for session 0. And a very brief overview of that is, if you're not familiar, a session 0 is like an introductory session to a campaign. So you'll get your players together, and you're not coming to play D&D today. You're coming to create your characters and because they don't know about our world. So we can fill them in on like the campaign setting, and then like talk about the logistics of like what RPG system we're playing, right? So you'd say we're playing Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition for this campaign, and I'm going to do milestone leveling, and this is where all the races come from, and this is the gods, this is the stuff you should know about the campaign before you make your characters. But we're going to try and make that as entertaining as possible for our players, so it's not just information overload. What's very interesting about this process today is that we're on the last stages of planning session 0, and on Wednesday I will be recording our session 0 of the campaign we've all built together. I'm going to be playing this session 0 with a group of players who haven't actually been watching, so they're going to be like, it's all going to be new to them, and they're going to be they're going to be like a hamster group, a guinea pig group, where we're going to run the session from, and then I'm going to record that. So next Sunday at 6 p.m. we're going to do the same. We're going to be here again with the stream, and I'm going to have a couple of guests by audio, and we're going to play some clips of the campaign session and get their feedback on like what they thought about the campaign, but most importantly, like how the session 0 ran, and we can look at that and decide what went well, what didn't go so well, what we do differently next time, as like a thought exercise for how to run a session 0. A map that you play multiple campaigns on that affects the world forever. Yeah, so the way we've laid our campaign out is like very much it's not on rails, right? It's very sandboxy, and there's like a central tension to the story that our players can progress through and make changes to the real world. And so this is also available to you. So I'm just gonna there's a commands doc, right? This is the document that you can see here that I'm working on. That's a global Google Doc. So you can click on that and you can see all the information that we've added as a group to create this campaign. And I guess as like a proper overview, the reason we're doing this is to flex our muscles, right? It's to engage as a group and get better at not just DMing but playing D&D, right? Or like whatever RPG system you're into. So the plan for me was we've started from scratch building a campaign, and that's going to help anyone who's never DM'd before or has DM'd before and wants to discuss with other people to get better at DMing. But you don't have to be a DM to benefit from it, because if you're a player, just watching the process that's involved in creating a D&D campaign can help you as a player to understand what sort of things the DM's thinking about that you maybe haven't thought about. And we just talk about D&D really. We have people come in and they'll just like drop a topic that they want to talk about D&D, and then we'll get massively sidetracked from what we're supposed to be doing and just talk about the pros and cons of like whatever the topic is. So yeah, we're just sort of creating and you've arrived at a very exciting time, because this Wednesday is it's like the first time that this campaign's going to see the light of day for people who aren't watching it on Twitch, right? I'm really nervous about it because it's not my work. Like I keep saying, it's like we've all worked on this together. So like I want to do the best job I can of presenting everyone else's ideas to the group, because I want them to walk away from it and be like, oh my god, that campaign's really interesting. I actually want to play it, and then I can hopefully show that to come back next Sunday and say, well done guys, like, because it's probably at this point like 80% other people's work and 20% mine, and I am really proud of what everyone's contributed to this. So that should have you like fairly up to date, right? If you've got if any of that doesn't make sense or whatever, you want me to clarify, just like let me know and all. But that's kind of where we are. As you look at this document, there's green and blue stuff that's highlighted, and the stuff that's green is named. The stuff that's blue isn't. And if there's anything that's blue that you want to name, you can name like a character or a god or like a town or whatever, that you can put your stamp on the world, which is supposed to be fun and interactive. Hopefully that's something you're interested in, but if not, like no pressure. Yeah, so and because Wednesday's like D-Day for session 0, we're literally just getting, it's like the shit session. We're just going like, oh my god, like we need to make sure that everything's done that needs to be done so that I can run the session on Wednesday. Which I'm real nervous about. It's an international D&D group. I won't say too much, but we've got it's not just like a local group of people that are forming my guinea pigs. So that's I'm really excited about that. That's one of the other like nerves things, because it's like a lot of work's gone on behind the scenes, and just having everything line up with like different time zones and stuff has just been extra work. But hopefully it'll form an enjoyable bit of content next week. And then also I've got to edit all the video down. I'm going to stop complaining because I'm actually really excited about it. D&D over the internet. Yeah, so there are actually, I'm guessing you've never played. Like a lot of people play D&D online now. There's a site called Roll20 that's built for playing RPGs online, and a lot of people do just play online, especially with Corona and stuff. I've never actually ran a campaign like completely online. I've played in a campaign online, but I've never run one online. But it's all the same really. It just, there's certain things that don't translate as well. Like you want to do, like, you can't play with minis and stuff as easily online and whatever. But it's all translatable. But yeah, so I'm going to run this session online for a group of 4 on Wednesday, and then we're going to talk about it next Sunday. And right now we're just putting together this. So we've created a checklist of all the things that I wanted to have ready, and basically the last thing on the checklist is this list of. Come on, Roostlers. So there's plenty of things on this checklist. Like I wanted to create posters that I could hand to our players, and they're like propaganda posters which explain a little bit of the backstory of what's going on to them. And then I've got the map to hand them to show them what the town looks like and stuff. And then we've actually written a haiku, which is going to help them. Like it's a little introduction to the like campaign setting and stuff. And the last thing that we're getting ready today is this list of, it's all the playable races, and then like the shortest description I can possibly give them of that race is part of society, so that they can make an informed decision about what character they want to play. Because as an example, like we've decided our elves are going to be like a seafaring kind of like piratey type race, which is not necessarily what you'd expect from elves. So we want players to know that before they decide they're going to be an elf, so they can, like, do you want to be an elf that is like a raider, right? Good luck. Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm nervous, but I'm like optimistically nervous. I say this a lot, but like the physical reactions that you have to being nervous and excited are actually like very similar. You biologically, like the whole like your blood, like your heart rate increasing and you're perspiring and stuff are all like, they happen when you're excited and when you're nervous, and like it's a very fine line between the two emotions. So like I try and channel one into the other, right? Like use my nerves to propel me to a better performance, right? To create an enjoyable campaign for our players. Oh, Aasimar. So where are we? Aasimar are born as an aspect of a religious domain that hasn't been claimed by one of the demigods. Though they are conceived with the knowledge required to reunite the fractious domain with its whole, it's their life's work. It's their life's purpose to achieve this unity, right? Unity and believed to cease existing when their objective is achieved. When their objective is achieved. Cool. Tiefling. Tieflings. We're playing tieflings as like the classic D&D trope, where tieflings are said to have made a pact with our what do we call him? I don't think it's got a name yet, but we have like a anti demigod, right? There's like the bad guy. The classic bad guy. The cool thing about our domain of gods is there's no real. They're all fairly like ambiguous. Like they can all be good and evil, but there's going to be one that's like clearly evil, right? I've made a pact with our anti-deity. Team says a pact with anti-deity and to be pulled through to this plane of existence. Pulled through to this plane of existence from a like an otherworldly. We don't want our players to know really, but basically it's like a hellscape, right? It's like a hell plane, right? From an evil, right? Drow. So Drow are quite interesting because like your trope, like your default D&D Drow, dark elves, right? But our elves, the way we've written our elves are very, they kind of toe the line anyway. The fact that they're like almost immortal compared to the rest of the races means they've got this very removed sense of self from the world. They're not very well integrated. They just they do what they want to do because they don't believe that like anything. They don't believe that their history is intertwined with the history of humans who are going to die in like less than a century. They just kind of do their own thing. So I don't really want them to be like the classic evil version of an elf. So I think, let me know how you feel about this. I think our Drow should just be elves that have chosen not to live like the seafaring life, right? So it kind of flips that whole idea on its head, where this isn't necessarily true, but from like a normal person's perspective of like good and bad. It's almost like the elves are like the bad guys, right? And our Drow would be like the good guys, just talking from like a humanistic standpoint. The ones that have decided not to be like pirates, right? You would consider to be like less evil. So, yeah, I mean, unless anyone's got a better idea, I'm probably just going to go with that. Occasionally, bands of elves. Abandon there, and like it's kind of got that same flavour of Drow anyway, because like they live by like a code to the elves at sea. Got me a call, be back later. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. Was nice to be reminded to talk about what's going on so that people can keep up with like the stream, right? Enjoy your call and enjoy your evening. Yes, our Drow have like still broken that kind of pact that they made with the Elvish like code, right? And so still have that kind of anti-elf feel. But our anti-elves are almost closer to being like the what would traditionally be like a good guy. As well as abandon their code and the life at sea for a more comfortable existence on the referred to as Drow by their seafaring counterparts. Seafaring counterparts. They're more comfortable. They're less extreme, right? Life on land and reduced exposure to the elements. Results often results, right? In a darker complexion. So we're not playing like the classic. Obviously, our players can be, if our players want to be like the like onyx black skins drow, that's like absolutely fine. But I would almost have the drow like skin palette be like a big gamut of like just darker skin tones all the way through to like jet black, because like the reasons for drow, like traditional D&D drow being like having onyx coloured skin, is because they live underground, but our drow don't. And there's science behind the reason why their complexion is darker. I just don't know what it is right now. Perhaps it's a life under the cloudy sea sky that like results in like the fairish elf complexion. So, but like I like the idea that our elves, our seafaring elves, would have like rougher skin and stuff than the drow, because they're used to like the salty air and like being outside in the elements. A darker complexion. A darker complexion and softer skin, right? So we're almost flipping like the like a lot of our stuff's like tropey, and I've said this in the past where like it's fun to write your own campaign setting and write your own races and stuff, because like that's why you're doing this, because you enjoy being creative and stuff. But you want to have like an amount of an amount of elements of your story that are like stereotypical, because it's easy for your players on session 0 to like, when you first start a campaign, it's easier for your players to adapt to it. When you say the dwarves live underground and they're normally quite stubborn, and they go like, yes, they're dwarves, I get that. And then we've got like a couple of things, like our turtle are quite unique, right? And our elves and drow are quite unique, but most of the other races are kind of what they'd expect. So like it just like it lets you impose your own will on the world and have your own creative stamp and stuff, and like have your own like unique world, right? But while also not bombarding your players with an entire world that they now need to memorize everything about, right? It's like the more things you give your players that they already kind of know, like the easier it's going to be for them to adapt. They're gonna look at this list and be like, okay, yeah, a lot of these are exactly what I'd expect, and there's a couple that stand out as being a bit different. And then it's going to be easy for them to remember, because they're going to remember, oh, elves are different in this world, aren't they? So, like, rather than just, oh my god, I've got this list of, like, I need to remember all of this stuff, right? They know they're going to be able to instinctively go, oh, there's a couple of things that I need to remember. And even if they don't remember specifically, they know which things they should probably read again, if that makes sense. Like, we'd give this to our players anyway, and they'd have this to hand. Hopefully they'd keep it with the character sheet. And during the first couple of sessions when everything's new to them, they might remember, oh, this guy's an elf. There was something weird about elves, wasn't there? And then they'll look at the sheet and read this like 2 sentences again and go, oh yeah, okay, I'm with you now. Whereas they'll meet a dwarf and they'll just, in the back of their mind, they'll go, dwarves are dwarves, right? I know what the deal is with dwarves. There's information there that's new that I want to learn, but like I don't need to know everything about them, right? But I know what like the NPCs like. I have a rough idea of how the NPC is going to interact with me based on my prior knowledge of how dwarves act, right? So dark collection of skin. There you go. Is that our entire list? That's it. We've done it. So it doesn't explain the deities though. But then I said, so the actual deities. I think we can just. We've got this, haven't we? Right. In fact, so is it possible to? No, I think I should probably just do another page, right? But we're just going to use the information that we put together in episode 1. Was it when we did religion all that time ago? How many columns are there in this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I think it's 13. But we'll do 14, right? And again, like we're just going to hand this to our players. We're not going to say you need to memorize all of this stuff. We're just going to say here's a list of the deities. If you're going to play a cleric or whatever, you might be interested to read them all, so you can choose like a domain or whatever. But if you're playing a rogue and have absolutely no interest in the gods, you can keep this sheet for later on, because your character would still know about the gods, and when you're having a conversation with an NPC and you want to reference it, you can do. So we're nearly there. We're at a point now where like I'm literally just copying and pasting this, right? This without format. How's everyone feeling, right? So if like Erafina and Ali Scarlet are still about, but how are you feeling about Wednesday? Are you nervous for me, or do you think we got this in the bag? Although in a world where gods actually exist, most people would likely worship one god or another, right? I think that's an or another. In which case, yeah, like so the way our it's like we've got like a pantheon of, we've gone for like the classic, it's like a pantheon of gods that all form, they're like Voltron up into, there's one god that subdivides into a load of demigods which can exist in like the mortal realm, and they're mostly attributed to like a race. They all have their own domains, and there tends to be like this Gordius, right, is normally attributed to the human race. So like most humans would be worshippers of Gordius, right? And unless they're like agnostic or atheist or whatever. But there is certainly going to be like a cross between, like you'll get other races who worship Gordius, and they'll all likely, they'll have a spot in their heart. They'll have a place on the mantle for gods that aren't their like primary gods, but they usually choose to follow one, and that will normally be dictated by their race, right? Very gone for like it's a very classic. And like we've gone, these demigods have been known to like traverse the plane, but it hasn't, like, it doesn't happen very often. It's very unlikely that anyone will have seen any of them, and if they have, then they certainly wouldn't be believed when they're telling that story. I think it'll be golden. It's all in the editing. Yeah, that's a very good point actually. I do have a reasonable relationship with everyone who's playing, so I can definitely, like, we'll spend the first 15 minutes recording like pleased reactions from everyone, and if it goes horribly wrong, I can just edit. I can just throw together like a master edit where it looks like I did a good job. No, I'm joking. I would never do that to you guys. The whole point of this is it's a learning exercise, right? And if I do a terrible job, then that might be the best way for us to learn. Like, I can put together a montage of how not to run session 0, and and I'll do that proudly if that's what it comes to, right? I do feel pretty, as nervous as I am, I do feel pretty confident. Like, I feel confident in, there's no way to say this so it doesn't make me sound like a jerk, but I feel confident in my ability to like improvise as we go. Oh my god, Sprock! How about this? Low lie. How do you feel like this? What do we think of that for a name for our like anti-day? I love this anti-day, by the way. We haven't actually, nobody's talked about what the deal is with the anti-deity, but we all know Summit went down, right? It's kind of like the bad child of the group kind of thing. Like, we don't need to answer that question, which is one of my favourite things about DMing, right? We can fill that in at a later date. We just have our players know that there's like there's a fallen brother or fallen sister of the gods. We don't need to explain that yet. Oh my indeed. Oh my Lurlai. For anyone who's watching who isn't aware, we're referring to a specific Sprocker Spaniel who is a little shit. Love her to pieces, but also a little shit. So I feel it seems very fitting to name our anti-god after a bipedal Sprocker, a dirge-headed. Was that drow? I'm getting lost because I'm talking nonsense as well. Chad Chadsworth, for God's sake. Chad Chadsworth. Our Goliath god is named Chad Chadsworth. I think it should be one word though. How do we feel about that? It's not like a surname. Not very well today. Oh, how is she? I mean, obviously, how is she not very well? What's up with her? She just... Is it a dicky tum? Or is it just too much excitement last night? I can't remember what this one was. That was the Aarakocra, wasn't it? Asima. This is Asima. You're an Asima. And this is Aarakocra. Got a case of the Sundays, yeah. Been a long week for the Sprock. Big long week of sprocking about, you know. Sprocking about don't happen by itself. I forgot to mention at the head of this episode that we're modelless this week. You know, I was gonna effing chat for our mod Robbie B. He's a busy man tonight, so he couldn't make it. And then I was going to ask you all to behave yourselves because we're modelless, but you've all behaved yourselves anyway. We haven't had one of those bots this week either, like Touchwood. No paying for fame today. No paying for fame this week. You got to earn it. Which is handy because we're modelless, and I'd have to work out how to. I have no idea how to get rid of them. I'd have to work it out on the fly. We've done Asima. Who's this? Is this our anti-day? No, this is Ganassi, isn't it? Oh, this is race though, right? Like, I'm going to leave Ganassi out of this. I'm just going to leave Ganassi out of it, right? Because I don't think anyone's going to want to be a Ganassi. But we do have a plan if anyone wants to be a Ganassi. Our Ganassi exist as like a physical manifestation of the world, right? So that they're actually, despite not being religious in and of themselves, they actually represent an aspect of the lady, which is like the combined gods. Lurlai is a she, and she is an asshole. I think you don't need to be nervous. Preparations-wise, you seem to be in a good place. Just remember, once you start coming up with names for 11 days of the week, you've gone too far. Never! You've never gone too far. Yeah, next week we're going to talk about which day on the 13-month calendar is, and how our asymmetric seasons cycle in relation to our multiple celestial bodies, right? I've been down that rabbit hole before, but I've never implemented, like, it's one of those things that's fun to like theory craft, But then when you look at it, you're like, I'm not going to tell my players that. I have a campaign going where there's 2 sons, right? And I spent like a couple of hours of my life one day just sitting and thinking about how having 2 sons on a planet would affect the seasons. And I came up with answers for it and stuff. And was like, I'm not going to tell this to my players because it's just not something they need to know to play D&D. Like, it's one of those things that if a player asked you about it, by God, I'd enjoy explaining it to them. But like, let's not force it upon them, because that's probably not most people's idea of fun. But yeah, thank you for your kind words. I'm optimistic that I've said this a lot now, but I just want to do right by the viewers, I guess. That there's a lot of people who've put a lot of work into this. It's not just me, and I'm more than happy to fail on my own, but I don't want to fail with presenting other people's hard work and stuff. This haiku in particular, I don't want to mess up reading that out, because like Pontus coming at us with a haiku was like probably one of my highlights of streaming. So I want to do a good job of reading that out and stuff, and just gauging a reaction of like how our players react to being read a haiku in session 0. Like, I'm so excited to see how that goes. I'm like super hyped for it. I'm smiling already. Like, the other things just like the things I'm actually the most nervous about aren't. I know what you mean. You've got an Excel sheet to calculate time and the height of tides in a world with 2 moons. I would love to see that. Genuinely. I'm also a big Excel nerd, so that's ticking a lot of boxes for me. I can't remember what I'm saying now. I'm smiling about it. Yeah, the things that I'm actually the most nervous about are just general, like, it's the other things. It's not the DMing side of it. It's like, obviously I'm recording it, and like as you may or may not be able to tell, fairly new to like streaming and stuff. So I keep having nightmares that we're going to get to the end of the session and I'm going to look and realise that I haven't started recording or whatever. So let's not do that. That would be horrific. But I'm quietly optimistic. We've actually arrived at finishing everything that we were meant to do on this list, and it is exactly 8 o'clock. We haven't done this physical description of Sunnybridge, but that's another thing that I'm fairly comfortable doing on the fly. And it's going to sound awful, but that's fine. You guys need to see an example of, like, I'm real conscious of doing this for like people who are new. I want there to be examples of me doing a horrible job reading out a physical description of somewhere, because that's the kind of thing that new players are probably like really nervous about, and they don't need to be, because they're going to see, hopefully they're going to see me do a horrible job and see how the players playing the game look at me doing a horrible job and go like, oh yeah, like he's putting a lot of effort into this. And it's not something you don't need to be William Wordsworth to entertain your players at a table, especially if they're people you have a relationship with. Like, they're going to appreciate the hard work you put. And that's a positive message to send. So, as we wind down, I want to say thank you very much to those of you in chat who've contributed, not only today but for the past 9 weeks. It's been an emotional roller coaster. This is actually our 10th stream, our 10th Sunday stream if you include session 0 when it was just an interview with myself. So 10 weeks is like a long time to have just been hammering at this and coming every week, and I cannot overstate how much I appreciate people's contribution. I understand that, you know, giving up a couple of hours of your Sunday night to come and hang out and talk about D&D is like, you know, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and hopefully you are too. But it's not. It is a. What am I trying to say? It is a time investment, and so I want to make it clear that I'm very grateful to everything that the chat contributes to this, because it wouldn't be what it is without you guys. as always, we'll be back next Sunday at 6 p.m. That's BST because we do things weird in Britain. We're currently GMT +1 because of farmers and the sun. And our single sun in the sky, as awkward as that is. If we had two suns, then maybe we wouldn't have need for British summertime. As always, the document is available not just while we're streaming, it's always available for you to look at, make amendments to. If you've got any ideas, make a note of them for names of deities and stuff, and come back next Sunday and we'll add them to the sheet. YouTube, just search Roosplers if you want a back catalogue of all the episodes. And I upload everything. I'm really bad at uploading stuff at a set time, but I tend to get the last episode always uploaded before Sunday. Right, so everything's online now that exists. Have I got anything else to mention? Not really. Just that I'm super excited for next week. Yeah, that's it. I think. I don't think I've got any weird announcements to make. Just thank you all very much as always for turning up, and I will see you again next week for more of the same.